Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca for the third race night of Season 2 for the PDC Racing League here on Yearone Racing TV. We've seen some truly epic racing already in this second season of what's becoming a very popular championship with some of the action from our first two nights at Okayama 2 weeks ago, Alton Park last Friday night. Racing has been times actually quite hard to believe. We've seen 3 and 4 wide battling. We've seen some very clean racing as well, with minimal contact, even around some very tight and twisting circuit. And it is another tight and twisting circuit that greets the drivers today as we make our first of 2 visits to America in this 10 race, 5 event season, the same format as we had for season 1, but a different group of tracks. We already, as I said, been to Japan and Okayama, the UK at Alton Park. Laguna Seca tonight. We're at Donington Park next week, and then the Charlotte Roval will make up the final 2 races of this second season, which is being led by the reigning champion, Dan Blake, and he was on form last time out at Alton Park as well. Let's remind ourselves of what happened last time in the first race of the night. It wasn't actually Dan Blake that took the victory, it was Ben Leach, who had won at Alton Park in season 1 as well, and Ben Leach took the win in race 1 by a very commanding 0.1 seconds. Dan Blake was really left battling for second position, and he had a number of drivers challenging him for that runners-up spot throughout the race, namely Ian Crosby, actually, in the latter stages, but Ian was not able to pip Dan, so it was Leach that won, Blake in second, Crosby third, and Chris Knox in fourth, and Freddie Hewitt rounded out the top 5. In the second, Blake was able to take race victory though, and that meant that with a second and a race win, it did his points tally the world of good. Once again, had some incredible racing, albeit not for the lead in that second race. Dan Blake was kind of able to escape up the road as a result of a titanic battle going on for second position between Freddie Hewitt, Ben Sharp, Chris Knox, David Ward, and others who unfortunately dropped out midway through the race. That was the order they finished in though. Blake with the win, Hewitt second, Sharp third, Chris Knox fourth, and David Ward to round out the top 5 in race number 2. All of which means that Dan Blake has a very healthy cushion in the points as we arrive here at Laguna Seca for rounds 5 and 6 of the championship. He comes to America on 143 points, with 2 race victories and 1 pole position to his name so far this season. And remember, you score points for qualifying as well as the races, and he's been bagging some nice points, particularly at Alton Park, where he had a pole and a second place. Ironically, the race he started from pole, he finished second. He started second on the grid, was actually the second race which he was able to go and win, but that very handy points haul means that he is over 50 points, 51 points clear of Chris Knox, who is second in the championship, still looking for his first win, but he's had himself a podium. He's been consistently within the top 5 all season, really. Freddie Hewitt, one of the real improvers in his second season of racing with us. He's third, again, still looking for his first victory. David Ward is fourth, and Carl Jacquelet is the next highest race winner in the championship. So the second, third, and fourth place drivers all without a win. Carl Jacquelet did win the second race at Okayama, a race that Dan Blake probably should have won, certainly should have finished second, but a last lap bit of contact put him down the order, and his Yearone racing teammate, Carl Jacquelet, was able to pick his way through and claim the race victory. So that's just a taste, really, of some of the unpredictable action that we've had in the PDC Racing League over recent weeks. Well, there is a good view of the Laguna Seca circuit here, the Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, all 2.2 miles of the track, 11 turns, and the drivers already are into their qualifying session. There's been a slight tweak to the format tonight, so they have a longer qualifying session for each of the races. Gone is the short, sharp, and stressful 5-minute qualifying format that we've had previously, and now they've doubled the amount of time. The drivers have 10 minutes now to set their fastest lap times, which decides the grid for race 1, and then after race 1 we have another qualifying session to decide the lineup for the longer second race of the evening. The drivers do have therefore more time to set good lap times, but already we're seeing some impressive pace from a few of our expected front runners here in the early stages. Ben Sharp is fastest right now on a 1 minute 39.17. is actually nearly a full second clear of Pip Hammond, or he was, until Dan Blake, the championship leader, split them. So Dan Blake goes second on the grid with a 1:39.73, just over half a second behind Ben Sharp, though. So those two, who were both very rapid last time out at Alton Park, looks like they're set to do battle again. It's nice at Laguna Seca. Hammond is third, Alex Rivette fourth, and Carl Jacquelet fifth quickest at the moment. You're running on board with Gavin Johnson here, who jumps to ninth position with a nice tow from the 49 car in front of him. He now pulls out around the outside of that car into the first corner, and then he gets sideways in front of him. Gavin has to take to the grass and the curb to avoid contact. As well, the driver in front of him saves the slide and carries on his merry way. That's Gary Bailey, who is joining us again tonight. So possibly we're not going to see Gavin Johnson improve his lap time at all on this occasion. Mentioned Gary Bailey there. Ian Bailey is with us as well now for the first time in Season 2. Ian Bailey was a multiple winner, finished third place in the championship in Season 1. So nice to have a few familiar names returning. And Pip Hammond, one of the people alongside Gavin Johnson responsible for the creation of the PDC Racing League. He had his first podium at Okayama at the start of the season. In the top 5 at the moment in this qualifying session, fourth quickest right now. Chris Knox has just gone second, by the way, but Ben Sharp has improved again. Ben Sharp now on a 1:38.28, and there is the Alpha Live livery Year 1 racing driver, and he has, as I said, nearly a 6/10 of a second cushion over Chris Knox, with Kyle Power in third. And Kyle, again, has been a bit of a sensation in Season 2, coming out of absolutely nowhere right from the word go. He's been one of the pace setters, and Kyle Power definitely a tip for a race win, maybe 2 tonight. And Blake, therefore, is down to 4th. Pip Hammond is now rounding out the top 5, ahead of Freddie Hewitt, Alex Rivette, Ben Bateman, Carl Jacquelet, and Alex Van Gien. I believe I was getting the pronunciation of his name wrong a week ago. I do apologise to Alex, but he's inside the top 10, so it looks like I'll get plenty of practice of getting that name right tonight, because he looks as though he should be a contender. Down the order then, at some drivers that I thought might be doing a bit better. Well, I touched upon Gavin Johnson. He was 9th when I mentioned him last. He's now 14th. There's other people who've come through to improve. Charles Kellyman as well is normally a bit further up the order than 60th, which is where he finds himself now. And there are still a couple of drivers who haven't yet set a lap time. One of the big issues with those really quick qualifying sessions, not only are you limited on laps, therefore you really have time to gradually build the heat into the tyres and the brakes. You just have to kind of get straight on with it and hope for the best. But also, if you ran off the track and you had a lap time disallowed for exceeding track limits, realistically you would only get 2, maybe 3 attempts at a flying lap. So if 1 or 2 of them get disallowed, that really was putting the pressure on the drivers. Of course, you could argue they shouldn't be making those mistakes anyway, but in that sort of a high pressure environment, it's going to happen. Got a longer session now, they can ease their way into it, put in a couple of banker laps early on, got something in reserve if, when you start pushing later on, you start getting lap times disallowed. Kyle Power isn't having any lap times disallowed. He's just set a new personal best and goes second quickest now, within a quarter of a second of Ben Sharp, the pole sitter. So it's Sharp on pole, Power second, Knox third, and Blake fourth, with Freddie Hewitt in fifth. Michael Seal has improved. He's gone 7th quickest. Steve Hefford's into the top 10 now as well. So too Pete Van Gool and Ben Best. So the entire back end of the top 10 now filled with new names, because people like Pip Hammond, Alex Rivette, Ben Bateman have fallen out of the top 10. Gavin Johnson and Gary Bailey, though, both get themselves into the top 10, as there's a moment there for Ben Leach running out wide onto the dirt there. He Fortunately, we'll probably see this lap time getting disallowed as a result of that. But Gavin Johnson 7th, Gary Bailey 8th. So a couple of drivers there that were just outside the top 10 who have been able to find some improvements. As we now move into the final part of the session, not that long to go. And the tyres and brakes now very much will be in their optimum operating window. So in theory, we should start seeing the lap times continue to improve, and indeed they are. Ben Sharp has just improved again at the top of the times, 1:38.04. Chris Knox, who is third quickest, went through and didn't improve that time, interestingly. So Ben Sharp now 4.5 tenths clear of anybody else. Southgate, he's just improved to 12th place. We're following Ian Crosby now, coming into the final turn. Ian is 6th quickest right now in the Specsavers car. Again, someone who's been getting a lot of screen time of late in Crosby. He's been incredibly entertaining to watch, and isn't getting any quicker on this lap then. Crosses the start-finish line. The lap time is... No, I don't think he set one, so I think that might possibly have been one of those laps again that was taken away from him because of a track limits infringement. Sharp has gone to the pit lane. He decides he can do no more, but he might be regretting that because Kyle Power has just improved his second place time. He's still in second, but he's now only 0.12 of a second, so just over a tenth of a second away on Ben Sharp's lap time, and Kyle has another lap. He's also getting a slipstream there from the number 37 car just in front of him, but that car is quite a bit further down the order than he is. That's Dale Benison in 25th, so Kyle getting a nice little slipstream now, but if he capped that car at the wrong point, it could start delaying him, and it looks as though that is going to happen. The checkered flag is out then. This is the final lap of the session, and actually Dale Benison staying out of play there as best as he can. Knox, though, is coming towards the end of his final lap of the session, so he's going to get there before Kyle Power. So Chris Knox, third fastest right now. He's going quickly on this lap, though. The timing screen telling us that he really is pushing on. Comes across the start-finish line. Chris Knox, can he jump onto the front row of the grid? He needs to find 0.49 of a second to get pole position, and he does! What a lap time, and what a time to pull it out of the bag for Chris Knox. He goes to pole on a 1:37.69. Ben Leach goes third. Lots of late improvements here in the session, and Kyle Power has bailed for the pit lane, so it looks as though, unless Dan Blake's doing anything exciting out on track, that might be off front. Couple of rows set. Ian Crosby here is coming out of the final corner with the number 61 car of Michael Seal right behind him. Dan Blake crosses the line and improves his time, but not his position. Stays in 5th place. What about Ian Crosby? Still no further improvements now. I think he's bailed from that lap as well, so I think they are pretty much done with major improvements, or are we? Gavin Johnson is still on a lap. Traffic doing its best to get out of his way. And Gavin Johnson, the number 9 car, is in 9th place right now. Qualifying has been a bit of an issue for Gavin, but he races well. If he can jump up into the top 3 rows or so, then that is game on when we get into our first race in a few moments' time. Gavin, I don't think is going to be improved. No, he doesn't. Gary Bailey does, though. Gary Bailey goes 7th. He demotes Gavin Johnson to 10th now. Gary Bailey was just on the fringes of the top 10, I think, and he set that lap time. Looks like should be just about it. The session is complete. I think everyone that was on a lap has either given up or have come across the start-finish line to see the checkered flag, and it's a very late improvement then for Chris Knox that gets him on pole position and scores him the 10 championship points that you get for starting on pole. And the other big story, really, I guess, is that Dan Blake is all the way down in 5th, which is that he will not score as many points from this qualifying session. It's 10 points for pole, then 987, 654, 32, right the way throughout the rest of the top 10. So Dan Blake will score 6 points for qualifying 5th, 4 points fewer than Chris Knox, who is his nearest championship rival as well. So that gap that was over 50 points is now back under 50 points, but still Chris Knox knows he really has to try and win some races if he's going to legitimately challenge Dan for the title. So here is how the grid lines up then for our first race of the night in the PDC Racing League at Laguna Seca. Chris Knox gets the pole position with a really impressive late lap time. Ben Sharp alongside him on the pace again this week. Ben Leach, another late improver, he's third, with Kyle Power sharing the second row. And Dan Blake, the points leader, dominant driver of Season 2 so far, down on the third row alongside Freddie Hewitt. Then it's Gary Bailey and David Ward, whilst Ian Crosby and Gavin Johnson round out the top 10. Then on row 6, Steve Hefford and Pip Hammond. 7th row for Alex Rivette and Adam Southgate. And then row 8 for Michael Seal and Pete Van Gool. Ben Best and Alex Van Gien are on the 9th row of the grid. Out the top 20, we have Charles Kellyman and Ben Bateman on row number 10. Row 11 for Carl Jacquelet. Don't know why he's that far down the order, but definitely one to watch. He should gain quite a bit of ground from there. Craig Jones alongside on row 11. Then it's Roger Morton and Ian Court, Alan Toon and Ed Cooper, Benison, Ben Hansey, and the rest. It is a big grid, 34 cars ready to do battle for 20 minutes around the Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Who gets off the line best? Who leads into turn 1? And how significant will that turn out to be? At Alton Park last time, it really worked well for Dan Blake, getting off the line well and leading the field through the first lap, because he was able to pull away and dominate that second race whilst they all fell over each other behind him. And one of the last drivers to be spawned onto the grid. Do this one from 5th on that grid with a couple of his teammates around him as well there. Chris Knox, Ben Sharp on the front row together. See them Still no sign of Dan Blake. He is now the only one we're waiting for to get this race underway. As you can see, it's quite a narrow track in general, but certainly along that start-finish straight, very easy to lock wheels and make contact, find yourself in the concrete wall on either side of the track. Such a big field of cars. Could create some drama, I think it's fair to say. Should it happen? Let's hope it doesn't, though. We're about to find out what happens because the revs are rising, the last driver is on the grid, and race number 1 of the night, round number 5 of the championship, is about to get underway. Off the line they go. Good start made by Chris Knox from pole position. Good start also from, well, basically the entirety of the top 5. They are in grid order as they rise towards turn number 1 and then fall back downhill. But Ben Sharp is in danger here of being hung out to dry into turn number 1. Dan Blake up the inside of Kyle Power there, trying to go into 4th position. That was risky, but it works. And he's now up alongside Ben Leach for 3rd. But then Freddie Hewitt fights back on the exit of the corner. They're 3 wide down towards turn number 3, and Dan Blake, the points leader, right in the middle of it all. There's Adam Southgate, and a bit of contact there between Southgate and Carl Jacquelette, who had a good start in 4 positions already, but Jacquelette's off the road and falling outside the top 20 again now. The leaders, though, make their way down the back straight towards this series of quick left-handers. Knox leads the way, Sharp second, Leach third. There's Blake. Dan Blake is down to 6th position, so we saw he was going for 3rd coming out of the Andretti hairpin and somehow ended up losing ground. He's behind the battling pair of Freddie Hewitt and Kyle Power now. And the race lead, Chris Knox goes off. Oh, Chris Knox, I don't believe it. He'd done all of the hard work, getting off the line and through the first corner in the lead. Then he runs out wide and Ben Sharp goes through on the inside. So Ben Sharp takes the advantage. Oh, but now, hang on, what's going on? Because Ben Sharp, Dan Blake's off as well. It's all changed. Dan Blake's falling down the order. Ben Sharp has also been off, so Ben Leach now gets the lead with Chris Knox second. Alex Van Gien and Jason Wood have just headed for the pit lane. Is going on. We're going to have to try and pull up some replays here then. It was all coming through the corkscrew section of the track, I believe. And as they went into the corner, oh, Dan Blake over the top of Freddie Hewitt. That was a very sizable shunt. Now, I'd be surprised if he hasn't got too much damage to carry on there, Dan Blake, because he not only went over the back of Freddie Hewitt's car, but I'm pretty sure he made contact with the barriers. Meanwhile, more drivers falling out of contention. Gavin Johnson and Steve Hefford are both in the pit lane now as well. Here is another replay of Ben Sharp. Yeah, so Ben Sharp is going to go off here as well, just as it looked like things were falling into his hands, and there he goes. In the background, it wasn't a good set of corners that for the Year 1 racing drivers, was it? They were all throwing themselves at the scenery. And as a result, Ben Leach has got the lead. Chris Knox is still second, despite being the first of that group to make a mistake. Gary Bailey third, but the battle is back on for the race lead now. To the outside goes Chris Knox. He gets his nose in front. The inside line prevails for Ben Leach. He hangs on to the advantage. Whether maybe these two might work together here, trying to get away from the rest of the pack. They're already 2 seconds clear of the humongous battle going on for 3rd, which at the moment has Gary Bailey in 3rd place, Kyle Power 4th, Ben Sharp 5th, Freddie Hewitt 6th, and David Ward 7th, all in a big gaggle. Over the hill they go then, back up towards the corkscrew once again. Right on board with Chris Knox now as he drops down the hill. And looks to try and carry some momentum through the last sequence of corners. He's off the road again, though. Saves it. Still thinks about overtaking for the race lead. Ben Leach didn't really know what to do there. Left him too much room. And Leach is the one that ends up off the road at the very next corner. This very much is not these two drivers working together. And as a result, Gary Bailey in 3rd is catching them pretty rapidly. That was a messy couple of corners for our lead pair. Chris Knox once again starts to attack Ben Leach. Knows he really has to try and win these races, and with Dan Blake not looking like to score points. Oh, actually, I say that he's in 10th place. That rather spectacular accident that he had. So Dan Blake is still going to score some points here by the looks of it. Therefore, Chris Knox really wants to maximise this opportunity and win the race if he can. He forces another mistake out of Ben Leach, who runs wide out of the Andretti hairpin. But turn number 3 is a right-hander, which puts him back on the inside line again. Knox with the switchback tries to cut back alongside down the short chute into turn 4. Doesn't quite work. So yeah, that gap has come down by over a second between Knox in 2nd and Gary Bailey in 3rd. And Bailey is getting away from Ben Sharp and Kyle Power, who themselves have just swapped positions, I think, 4th and 5th. Then Hewitt, Ward, Alex Rivette's up 5 positions into the top 8. Adam Southgate likewise has picked up 5 spots. Ben Bateman has gained 9 positions. And Gary Bailey, down in 17th place, has picked up 16. So it goes to show just how hectic it's been around the opening couple of laps. Hill then we go. We're riding on board with David Ward. That's Freddie Hewitt right in front of us as we crest the hill into the braking zone at the corkscrew. Ben Sharp and Kyle Power still debating their fourth position as well, just in front of them. But this is definitely giving those top three drivers a bit of breathing space, must be said. Car off there to the left-hand side of the road is a back marker, I think, trying to stay out of the way, and Freddie Hewitt, maybe distracted by that, misses the apex through the penultimate corner, runs out wide, and through go Ward and Rivette. So David Ward was one of the easier overtakes he's had to make in recent memory, it must be said. Across the start-finish line then, he will end the third lap of racing in 6th position now, 2 places higher than he started. Of Dan Blake. There is Dan. Now, you can see there is damage to that car, but not as much as I thought there might be. In 10th place in his previous lap was a personal best, but it was slower, critically, than pretty much all of the other drivers in front. So he's busy defending now from Ben Bateman and Charles Kellyman. So he is in that 10th position for the time being. That would score him a handful of points. Score points within the top 15 in the PDC Racing League. This is always the concern as the championship leader. It's nice to have that cushion, but the pressure is on you then not to make any mistakes. Dan Blake, definitely the driver that everyone's been struggling to beat so far this season. And, well, is this maybe going to be the start of a bit of a downfall? Oh dear, speaking of which, Pip Hammond collected in quite significant contact there with Kevin McGlone. Also involved is Ben Best, the 303 car. And I was just about to comment that Pip Hammond's car had sustained damage earlier on. It's got even more now. Oh dear, well, Ian Crosby, I think, was the man that actually got assaulted first by the number 7 car of McGlone. And as he spun back around, Pip Hammond had nowhere to go. So Hammond in trouble, McGlone in the pit lane, but everyone else carried on, albeit lightly wounded, I'm sure. Here's the replay on board with Alan Tude, who did a brilliant job to avoid all of that. He goes on the grass in avoidance, but that could have been a lot worse. Finds his way back on the track then, and suddenly has a much emptier road in front of him. This was Kevin McGlone's view. So easy to run wide there. He clatters into the side of the Specsavers car, who definitely didn't see that one coming, I don't think, because Kevin McGlone was having his own moment. And, yeah, in the end, quite lucky, really, that Ian Crosby didn't end up out of the race as well. 5 pictures then back to the leaders, where Ben Leach has just set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 37.81. So we're down to qualifying pace again now, and that's telling, because he looked pretty scrappy. Knox still does there, running wide through turn number 3, as so many others have done earlier on in this race. But yeah, Ben Leach now seems to be getting into a rhythm. He's setting some quicker lap times, more consistent lap times, and doesn't seem to be making quite as many mistakes as Chris Knox. So Ben Leach maintaining his race lead for the time being and trying to extend the margin with which he holds it. Ben Leach, who didn't take part in the opening rounds at Okayama, but right back on the pace at Alton Park with that win in race 1. He scored the pole position for race 2, but then unfortunately had a crash down at the chicane and took himself out of contention for a finish in race number 2. Scored points in that one. Therefore, relatively unlikely, I think, that he's going to be able to get himself into championship contention realistically now. It is only a short season. We make this point all the time. Just 10 races, and this is the 5th of those races, the halfway point. Seeing a replay here of Ian Bailey getting up to Gary Bailey, excuse me. So as he bounced across the gravel there, we're back now with Hewitt, who's trying to go around the outside here of Gary Bailey into the final corner. So, yeah, Gary Bailey, who helpfully on my iRacing screen is showing up as Ian Bailey, hence my confusion. But the timing screen tells me it is definitely Gary in 6th position, but defending busily here from Freddie Hewitt, Alex Rivette and Adam Southgate. Southgate not quite with them, but if they keep running side by side like this, he will be. Hewitt round the outside in the Fast R liveried car. Can't go right round the outside, has to be careful as well not to open the door for Alex Rivette behind him, which he almost does, but as we've seen, the inside line coming out of that hairpin is not really the place to be, because it puts you on the outside for the next couple of corners. Indeed, back in line, otherwise to end up in the dirt. The white and blue car you can see in the background, by the way, catching this lot now, is Dan Blake. Dan Blake was faster than basically everyone other than the top 4 or 5 drivers last time. So Dan Blake is definitely reading this group in. Adam Southgate there goes up the inside of Alex Rivette. That was for 8th position. They pass a stricken car left hand side of the screen. We're now hearing it is Ian Bailey in the 49 cars, so I'm easily confused at the best of times, let alone when drivers' names change 2 or 3 times during a race. But there you go. Is it Ian Bailey then that we're watching defending here in his 6th position? It's under 2 seconds behind David Ward, who's having a lonely race now in 5th, having broken out of that pack a few laps ago. And really on the move is Dan Blake. Dan is now only 1.6 seconds behind this group, and if he can catch them and pass them, then obviously that's more championship points than he could get his hands on. Equally though, really want to risk any more contact, because I'm not sure how much more contact that car could sustain without maybe developing some race-ending damage. It's all shuffling around in front of him there, and he's taken about a second out of them just in the last sector alone here. We've got the 2 orange cars now side by side in front of this queue. That's Adam Southgate and Freddie Hewitt. So Southgate has picked up already 2 places on this lap, and now he wants to get a 3rd one as they drop down the hill into the hairpin. And Southgate there was on the outside line. I think Rivette back alongside Ian Bailey there, and he goes into 8th spot. Or does he? Well, Southgate and Bailey, they're all together again. Look, as they go into turn number 3, Hewitt back into that 6th place. Southgate 7th, then Bailey and Rivette 8th and 9th. And Dan Blake very much a part of this battle now, so it's a 5-way scrap for the positions basically towards the back end of the top 10. Round the right-hander, head up the hill. Here's Dan Blake. He's up alongside the 49 of Ian Bailey now. He gets 2 wheels on the grass, and this is my point. It's a real risk here for Dan Blake. He wants to make progress. He wants to get more points, but in attempting to do that, he could quite easily find himself scoring any points at all if he ends up getting taken off the road again. And has proven on numerous occasions, though, both in this season and the last one, that he is capable of taking a damaged car and getting good results out of it, though. So all is not completely lost just yet. Oh, Southgate there in the distance, look, was up the inside of Freddie Hewitt. I think he's gone through, so Southgate has now gained his 8th position of the race to go into 6th place overall. Hewitt no doubt will try and fight back, and Ian Bailey with a big slide there as he dips a wheel onto the dirt. Blake kind of wondering what he has to do here to find a way through. Well, in the end, all he has to do is sit back and watch Ian Bailey go off the road. Blake goes past him, then dives up the inside of Alex Rivette into the final corner. That was textbook stuff there from Dan Blake. He waited until the situation developed in front of him and then pounced when he could. There's the moment for Ian Bailey. Look, he slides off onto the grass, and then Dan Blake goes straight around the outside of him and up the inside of Alex Rivette into the final corner. So 2 places gained there for Dan Blake. His next target will be Freddie Hewitt, but as you can see from these live pictures, Freddie's just got away from them again slightly now, Freddie and Southgate, and they've also been caught by Ben Bateman now, who's in 11th position, having started down in 20th. Really good race this from Ben Bateman. He starts to try and attack Ian Bailey, who in turn is trying to attack Alex Rivette, but Bailey runs a bit wide there through turn 4, so up the inside goes Bateman. Might get 2 for the price of 1 here. They're going to be 3 wide into the left-hander, but it is a left-hander that should favour Rivette in theory, but you can carry good momentum around the outside. You can see from the camera angle that it is quite steeply banked. Quite a lot of these corners at Laguna Seca have some camber to them, which means that you can get a bit more speed around the outside occasionally. Even though in the end settles in still at the back of the group, so he wasn't able to make the progress that he was hoping for there. Up front, by the way, Ben Leach is now nearly 2 seconds clear of Chris Knox. He's just set another fastest lap, 1:37.07. Ben Leach, the race leader, 2 seconds up on Chris Knox, who is 8 seconds clear of Ben Sharp. So the top 3, all very well distanced, but Ben Sharp and Kyle Power still nose to tail in their scrap for 3rd place. There is the race leader, comes over the hill into the second half of the race now. And, Ben Leach turns into the Andretti hairpin. Just apex nicely, carries the speed through, and then we pan back to this battle I was just mentioning, the 3rd, Kyle Power and Ben Sharp. They've been running nose to tail and side by side basically throughout the entire duration of the race, and they're continuing to do so now as we enter into the final 5 minutes or so. And Kyle Power couldn't really be much closer to the 3rd place car in front of him. But sometimes when you're in a battle with someone that is clearly as evenly matched as you are, or very evenly matched to you, I should say, sometimes it's best just to wait until the last lap, because you're not going to escape from them, even if you get past. Maybe just wait and pick your moment. Now, this has all changed around again, look, because Dan Blake is 6th now, so he's cleared this whole pack of cars. Alex Rivette is 7th and Ben Bateman 8th. So Southgate and Freddie Hewitt have both gone from being at the front of this 6th place battle to being at the back of it now. Southgate in 10th and Freddie Hewitt in 11th. So And we believe, Freddie Hewitt's been off the road, I believe. We're going to see a replay here of what happened to him. And it's coming up towards the corkscrew by the looks of it. And there's going to be some contact, is there, just as they turn into the corner. And yeah, Freddie Hewitt. And that explains why Adam Southgate was delayed in all of that too. So Hewitt and Southgate falling way, way down the order. There's Kellyman as well now into 11th place as well, as we see another angle of the Hewitt moment. Did well to gather that together without losing more places, actually. It's not a nice place to attack. It's live pictures then. The build making its way towards the end of the lap again. One of the best overtaking opportunities lies really in that final corner. Through the hairpin they go then. And Ben Sharp now on board with him into turn number 3. Ben Sharp then in that 3rd place. Can't escape from Kyle Power here. But equally, he's not going to catch Chris Knox. Chris Knox is now 4.5 seconds off the lead, by the way. Bentley's just set another fastest lap, 1:36.83. So Chris Knox, though, is still looking good for a 2nd place here, obviously, and that's not going to do him any harm at all in the championship. He will definitely start to close the gap on Dan Blake, but I doubt he'll be a bit disappointed, I reckon, to see and running a little bit stronger maybe than we thought he would be in the early stages. Chris Knox maybe not going to get a race victory tonight, but second, not in race 1 anyway, but of course the joy of the PDC Racing League is we get a 2nd race and a 2nd qualifying session as well. So if the 1st race doesn't go to plan, you can bounce straight back again. It has absolutely zero effect on your performance in race number 2. Back with Kyle Power now then, as he tries to find a way back ahead of the 3rd placed man, that being Ben Sharp. And Ben Sharp not overly having to drive defensively now, but he's definitely going to have one eye on the mirrors here as to keep the green and red car behind him. And that was the driver in the shape of Kyle Power. Kyle Power, someone that we know is quick, but maybe just needs to try and stay out of trouble. Because he's had a few bits of contact. I think back to Okayama the first round. He goes to the outside here of the Sharp car into the hairpin, tries to carry much speed off the corner as he can, but it's quite a short run then into turn number 3. He's just going to have to bide his time here. David Ward is still 2.4 seconds behind them. He's not catching them, so there's no real rush here for Kyle. Freddie, though, now. Freddie Hewitt, who is down in 9th place. He's got Charles Kellyman behind him now. We haven't mentioned Charles much, really, in this race. But Charles Kellyman is challenging Freddie, who in turn is challenging Ian Bailey. They've really lost a lot of time there to Dan Blake and Alex Rivette. They're 6.3 seconds behind him now. And they are... that incident that we saw them have up at the corkscrew a few laps ago has really split this whole pack of cars up. Freddie Hewitt then in 8th place will be quite glad, I think, just to survive this race, given the sort of battling that he's been a part of. The racing again throughout the top 10 really has been absolutely phenomenal once more. Throughout this first race of the night, and this, if what we've seen previously in the PDC Racing League is anything to go by, the 2nd race should be even better, even though it's the longer feature race. The 2nd race of the night has, generally speaking, been the most exciting of the 2. All contact though there, Freddie Hewitt, and Freddie Hewitt's been spun around here. I was just saying all he wants to do is survive this race. He's pointing the wrong way coming out of the final corner, and Freddie Hewitt is now down to 15th place, and he will be very, very annoyed indeed. Here's what happened. He goes into the final corner on the inside line, when Ian Bailey gets into the back of him and spins him around. So Ian Bailey benefited from that and got 8th place away, and Charles Kellyman 9th and Ian Crosby into 10th now. But Freddie Hewitt in all sorts of strife. Oh, and there's more content now as well. Ben Bateman involved this time around. So this is Ben Bateman and is it Carl Jackalette that he's tangled with? Yes, Adam Southgate, excuse me. Yeah, so Southgate, I'm completely losing my pictures here, so I'm having to simply go off what the timing screen is telling me, and I could see that Ben Bateman was losing ground. He's just fallen back behind old Jacquelet again now, so Jacquelet will very, very gratefully receive that 12th position, but Bateman is losing more ground now. Roger Morton's gone through, so it has not been a good lap or so for some of those drivers towards the back of the top 10. Front of the field, Ben Leach is in his happy place, most definitely, because Ben Leach is leading the race by 7.7 seconds. It's still the same order behind him as well, as we're on the final lap of the race now as well for the race leaders, just going through into the start of the final lap. So it's going to be a 13-lapper then. It's a 20-minute race to start out the evening's racing here at Laguna Seca. Ben Leach we're following now. Turn number 4. Chris Knox is in second position. Ben Sharp third. That's the real battle, isn't it, then? Whether or not Ben Sharp is going to be able to hold on to that third place. And there you can see Kyle Power is still right behind him as they go through turn number 4. And they're 2 seconds clear of David Ward, who's started to catch them a bit now. David Ward, 2 seconds adrift, but he's just had a personal best lap, which is pretty impressive, actually, on the final, penultimate lap, as that was, of the race. And Carl Power's gone through. Yes, he has. So Carl Power then into third position now. Now, I've said all along that he needed to just try and manage this and bide his time, pick his moment, and maybe the last lap would be the time to do it. And he's clearly decided that's the case. But Sharp has a half a lap to get the place back, which he has done. In fact, I can see on the timing screen that place has changed around once more. While though, the race leader is coming out of the final corner, and Ben Leach is going to take a dominant victory here in round number 5 of the PDC Racing League. Ben Leach wins for the second time this season in only his second race that he's finished, actually. Both races that he's finished so far this season, he has won. Chris Knox in second, and he was 7 seconds or so adrift. Ben Sharp will come home in third, so timed that, or Carl Power didn't quite time that to perfection in the end. Ben Sharp was able to get back through towards the end of the lap. Carl Power is 4th, David Ward is 5th, and then Dan Blake, and that was a pretty big save, that, for Dan Blake, when he was heading through the air towards the tyre wall on the opening lap of the corkscrew. He thought he was going to lose some more championship points to his rivals than he did, but a 6th place will go down very well. Alex Rivette will be 7th, Ian Bailey should come home 8th, but he's still under pressure from Charles Kellyman and Ian Crosby, but that is the order they crossed the line. Bailey 8th, Kellyman 9th, Ian Crosby in 10th position. Then it was Southgate 11th, Jacquelet 12th, and the rest of them all starting to file through. Freddie Hewitt ends up down in 15th after his multiple pits of contact that he was involved in, unfortunately. There you have it then, just like that, race number 1 is done and dusted, and Ben Leach, if he carries on winning races like this, then it's not necessarily out of the question that he could put himself into championship contention. That's a nice 35 points that he's just scored for winning that one. The championship could continue to twist and turn if Dan Blake continues to have problems, but he gets knocked down, Dan Blake. He seems able to pick himself up quite nicely again. And 6th place is not a win, obviously. But then, in fairness, he only qualified 5th, so he only ended up finishing 1 place below where he started, Dan Blake. So yeah, it definitely could have been a lot worse. So the result then of race number 1 sees Ben Leach with the victory, Chris Knox in 2nd, Ben Sharp 3rd, Kyle Power 4th, and David Ward in 5th. Then it was Dan Blake, Alex Rivette, Ian Bailey, Charles Kellyman, and Ian Crosby who rounded out the top 10. And Southgate's 11th, Carl Jacquelet 12th, Roger Morton in 13th, and Ben Bateman and Freddie Hewitt round out the top 15, and they're the 15 drivers that will score points. Gary Bailey is 16th, Pip Hammond 17th, then Ian Cork, Craig Jones, and Ed Cooper rounding out the top 20, ahead of Ben Best, Michael Seal, Dale Bennison, Doug Hamilton, and Alan Toon, with Gavin Johnson all the way down in 26th, but he did at least get to the flag, albeit 1 lap down, ahead of Steve Hefford, Kevin McGlone, Jason Wood, Lee Vaughan, and Hansey, the last of the cars running at the flag. We lost, therefore, only 3 drivers from the race. Alex Van Gien, Paul Warren, and Pete Van Gool. Pete, in fact, never completed a lap of the race, but we did only lose 3 drivers, so 31 of them were running at the flag. So that was our first race then, and we should hopefully be able to have a chat with a couple of our podium drivers. Definitely the race winner, and Leach is here, so we'll drag him in for a quick chat. And our producer will have to open the commentary box door and allow Ben Leach in. There he is. So Ben Leach, well, you've got a 100% record as far as races that you've finished this season. You've won both of them. It's a shame you had that non-point score in race 2 at Alton, though, because actually you could be right in championship contention if you'd had a bit of better luck. I'm asking him this question, and he's disappeared from the commentary box already. I am having a really good time with technology tonight, aren't I? Let's see if we can. There we go. Leach is back. Congratulations on your second race victory. I was just saying that had it not been for that retirement in race 2 at Alton last time out, we might just be talking about you as a championship contender. You've been tough to beat lately.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
I can now, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. So, it was a great race, great battle with Chris Knox at the beginning. Tricky to pull away because the toe's quite strong. But great race. Happy to, pull away and win it comfortably in the end.
Which is a rare thing, really, in this PDC racing league. We've seen that time and time again, but you clearly had the speed here. The early stages, though, both you and Chris were making a couple of mistakes, so it looked as though you were pushing hard right from the get-go just to try and get away from him, and it worked, because once you got that gap, really, he couldn't stay with you.
Sure, it's very tricky with the conditions because we don't know how hot it's going to be and how the tyres are going to behave when we enter the session. So it's a bit of an adventure at the start of the race. And I think you're both just trying to manage the grip level, and that's why you see a few mistakes. And then obviously you settle into your rhythm. But it was quite difficult to get away from him. I just had to concentrate on hitting my markers and not worry about him in my mirrors, really.
Race number 2 then coming up shortly, another qualifying session before that, so I guess really having a lot of time to yourself in that race with no one actually racing you wheel to wheel has probably set you up quite nicely for another qualifying session. You know how to set a fast lap around here, so what are the chances that we see you back on that front row again?
Well, I don't want to speak too soon because you saw what happened at Alton last week. So we'll see how it goes. I actually got kicked out of the qualifying session for race 1 and only got 1 lap in. So I was really happy, well chuffed to get up the front with that. So hopefully I'll get the full 10 minutes this time and be able to put something together.
We'll see how it goes for you in race number 2. Some more championship points would do you nicely. So best of luck for that one, and well done on another dominant win.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Ben Leach, then, your race winner in race number 1 for the PDC Racing League here at Laguna Seca. Ben Sharp has now arrived right on cue, the man that came home 3rd in that previous race. So we'll drag him in for a natter as well. Ben Sharp, who had that race-long dice with Power, and here he is then, Ben Sharp. Well done, another podium. I think of the 3 drivers that we've got on the podium, you had the most entertaining race because you just couldn't shake off Kyle Power there. He made the move on the last lap, but talk us through how you got it back.
Well, he made the move fair and square on the outside. I was really struggling with damaged front wing, and then he went into the corkscrew a bit too hot and managed to get through.
It was a mistake in the end from him. He was probably excited he'd finally found a way past you because he was giving you a real work over there, but it's relatively to defend, I suppose, around here, isn't it? There are certain places you have to cover, and then other than that, if you don't make any mistakes, you should be okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I made a small mistake early in that lap, which enabled him to get right on me. It was how he managed to go around the outside, really. So, but no, it was a mega race. We both enjoyed it, and hope you have another one now.
Well, you've been having some pretty entertaining battles of late in the championship, and race number 2, I'm sure you will once again have some stiff competition at the front. How important is it going to be, do you think, to make the start in race 2, though? Because really, those top 2 kind of gapped you all quite early, didn't they? If you could go with them, do you think you had the pace to challenge for the win?
No, I don't think I had the pace, really. Again, I don't think I've really done quite enough laps. Practice, it's my own fault again. But Ben's just found something in the car at the minute. He's so quick, and well, Chris Knox is really quick in everything he gets in as well. So I was quite happy to get 3rd, really.
Oh yeah, and you never know what might happen in race 2. That tends to be the chaotic race. So even though it's that 10-minute longer race, that tends to be the one where strange things happen. So keep yourself out of trouble, and who knows, we might be seeing you on the top step of the podium next time.
Well, we can hope so, but I'll be happy with another podium.
Right, well, fingers crossed for you anyway. Best of luck for race number 2.
Thank you, mate.
So Ben Sharp then gets himself a podium. I think that's all we've got time for interview-wise, because we need to start the process of moving over to our next session, which will be getting underway very shortly for our second race of the night. And you don't want to miss it, because that second race is always a thriller. It's coming your way in just a few minutes' time. Race number 2 for the PDC Racing League here from the Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca is only a few minutes away. Well, qualifying is at least for our second race of the night. This is the 30-minute feature race, and it may be 10 minutes longer, but it tends to cram in about 10 times the action that the first race of the night does. And whilst race 1 was entertaining enough, it was somewhat dominated in the end by the eventual race winner. So I think, we're in for some more exciting stuff here in race 2, and with another qualifying session to further jumble up the order. It's going to be an unpredictable start to the second half of the season. 5 races in, 5 more races to go, and Dan Blake, for the first time really, as though he made a mistake that might have cost him some serious championship points, but with rival Chris Knox only ending up second in that previous race, while Dan recovered to 6th. The points gap has come down, but not by as much as people like Chris Knox might have hoped for. Well, as we prepare for the second race, the qualifying session for which will be getting underway very shortly, it is a good chance to thank a few of our series sponsors, because the PDC Racing League quite simply would not happen if it wasn't for the brilliant sponsors that they have on board, and they're sponsors that have been with them now since the start of season 1 a little while ago. RS Components, who have been long-time supporters of the PDC Racing League. They're a well-known presence in the world of supplying industrial and electrical products, and they even host their own STEM Fest, where they basically head around to schools and play a part in the kids' education through their STEM activities, basically. And so RS Components doing good in the world, and also doing good in the world of the PDC Racing League. So too Bottomley Distillers, who as well as being an award-winning distillery, which straight away puts them in my good books, they've also been working really hard during the COVID-19 situation. They've been producing hand sanitizer to help frontline and key workers, key food chain staff, to keep them working, to keep us happy and healthy. And that's one of many examples. There are many companies like this out there who have been adapting to the strange and difficult conditions that we find ourselves in now, and they've been able to do their part in the fight against COVID-19. So we thank Bottomley Distillers again, not just for supporting us here in our racing, but also for doing their bit during the current pandemic. And we also thank SR Electrical Wholesalers, who is an independent electrical wholesaler based in Grimsby and Louth, up near Cadwell Park in the northeast. I think that's the northeast of the country. I think we can class it as the northeast. They operate from their premises in both Grimsby and Louth, both in the same part of the country, providing quality branded products at prices from the industry-leading electrical manufacturers. And their owner, Steve Tuff, has supported PDC Racing since 2017. So Steve, good evening. Hope you're watching from home tonight, and we again thank you for your continued support. So into our second qualifying session of the night. There is the man of the moment, Dan Blake, who didn't really seem, I wouldn't say he was out of sorts as such, because he qualified 5th and finished 6th in race 1, but he is the first time so far this season that he hasn't really been at competitive and not really been in the conversation for pole position. So we'll see whether or not he can bounce back a bit here in race number 2. He's about to come through and complete what will be his first flying lap of the session. And Dan Blake comes out of the final turn now. He is going to be the first driver, I think, to set a time, or no, I think he's actually just going on to a flying lap, in fact. So as the rest of the drivers go through, Ben Sharp and Dan Blake technically set the first lap times of 1:44s and 1:45s, but we know that the fastest times will be down in the high 37s or the low 38s, so they'll definitely go quicker than that once they've got the tyres up to temperature and actually completed a proper flying lap. It gives us time maybe to focus in on another driver that we're wanting to highlight this evening. Each race night that we have in the PDC Racing League, we're going to highlight, and we're going to put a driver spotlight on one of the drivers out there competing. And tonight's star driver is the driver of the number 65 car, Alan Tude. And Alan Tude, who is known as the Gentleman, there he is, goes across the start-finish line, began his competitive iRacing career at the age of 65, so there's hope for me yet. I've got time to get into this whole iRacing business. He's now had over 200 starts in official iRacing events. He's won 5 races. He currently holds a Class B licence, and he's looking to try and get that A licence in the near future. And why do they call him a gentleman? Well, because he's known for dressing up smart, even for his online races, regularly competing in a suit and a bow tie. And presume that is his racing attire for tonight's action as well. So Alan Toon, the gentleman, looking for a good result here, and someone who proves that it is never too late to try new things, and be that in real world racing, in sim racing, or anything in life for that matter. If you want to do it, if you want to give it a go, then why not go out there and enjoy it? And that's what Alan Toon's been doing, and he's been enjoying quite a bit of success of late as well. So welcome Alan Toon to this latest round of the PDC Racing League, and we'll see how he gets on in this qualifying session, which is well underway. We are now starting to see some representative lap times come in, and Ben Sharp, surprise, surprise, is on the pace. He leads the way on a 1:37.97. Ian Crosby is second, though, and only 7/100ths behind, and they've sort of straight away got down into the 37, or at least Ben Sharp has, and a very low 38 for Ian Crosby second and David Ward third. So it's not taking them quite as long to get down to the sort of tyres we expected to see from them. Ben Leach now goes second. It's very, very tight. The top four drivers covered by just 1/10 of a second now. Ben Sharp on pole, Ben Leach in second, Ian Crosby third, and David Ward in fourth position. Dan Blake is fifth again, which is where he qualified for race number one. Freddie Hewitt is sixth. Gavin Johnson going a bit better this time. He's in seventh. Ben Bateman eighth, Michael Steele ninth, and Carl Jacquelette in 10th, but there are still some people at the back. For example, Kyle Power, who's only 19th at the moment, the driver that was up there in that podium battle, finished fourth in race one. And so Kyle Power definitely should improve upon 19th. Chris Knox hasn't yet set a time either, so he is going to be feeling the pressure very shortly. So too Adam Southgate. All of those drivers that we would expect to be in the top 10. Some of them challenging for pole position, and they've not yet set a lap time in this qualifying session. Gavin Johnson has, though, and he's about to complete another lap, hammers the curb through the final corner there, and Gavin Johnson is currently in seventh position. David Ward improves to second, but all of a sudden there is a massive, massive jump between for Ben Sharp on pole position, because he was about 3/100ths of a second quicker than anybody else. He's now 7/10ths quicker, which is remarkable. That is a really, really good lap time from Ben Sharp. Into the low 37s, which is going to be tough to beat, but David Ward, the man closest to doing so at the moment, in second position, 7/10ths adrift right now. This man, Dan Blake, is still in fifth position right now, as he heads up the hill towards turn number 5, the first of these left-handers. He's got a couple of cars behind him, but no one right in front to hold him up, but his previous lap was not an improvement, and in fact he's dropped down to 6th now because Alex Rivette has jumped into 5th. So Dan Blake is possibly, just not really on the sort of running pace tonight that we've seen from him in the past. But it's the sign of a true champion that they can go out there, even on races where they're not setting the ultimate pace. They can still go out there and score some good points. Ben Sharp, though, definitely pretty close to the ultimate pace. And Ben Sharp, I was wondering this. Ben Sharp's dropped back on this lap to give his teammate Dan Blake slipstream. So Dan Blake is now the car right behind him. There goes Dan. So these two, both teammates here on Racing TV, and pulls out of the way now. Dan Blake goes through. I'm not quite sure what sort of a slipstream he got though through that final couple of corners. We'll see if it benefited him. Dan Blake comes across the start finish line. He's in 6th at the moment on a 1:38.54, and Dan Blake third. Nicely done. Dan Blake goes third, a 1:37.80. So the slipstream work, the team tactics work, and he owes his teammate, I'm going to say a pint in the pub. Maybe not just yet, but he certainly owes him a thank you as a result of the draft that he just gave him. Here comes Freddie Hewitt. How's he getting on? Freddie is just improved again, actually, into 6th position. Carl Jacquelette's improved recently as well. He's gone 7th, and Kyle Power has gone 9th. So we are starting to see some of those top 10 runners from the previous race inside the top 10 again. There is Kyle Power heading through the quick left-hander. Ben Leach, though, has just gone to pole position. There we go. Ben Leach on to pole position, 1:37.13. The race one winner is once again at the top of the tree. It took him a bit longer in this qualifying session to flex his muscles and set the good lap time, but he's got the pole position now by 0.14 of a second, a 10th and a half or so then between the two Bens, but it is Leach now quicker than Ben Sharp. Chris Knox improves, he goes into 6th position now, so that means that he knocks Ian Crosby down a position. We're watching Ian in the spectators car with David Ward right in front of him, Ward in the pink car in front is third quickest. Ian Crosby is seventh, but he's just set a purple sector earlier on in the lap. So Ian Crosby could be about to improve on seventh place. He's got one more corner to go. Kyle Power just in front of them as well. This is a quick group of drivers here, all about to cross the line. Let's see what Kyle Power can do first then, because he was the first of the three to see the start-finish line. He is all the way down in 11th at the moment, Kyle Power, and he jumps up into 8th position. David Ward goes through and does not improve, but Ian Crosby very much does. He goes second quickest. That was a good lap, that from Ian Crosby. Just misses out on pole position. That means that Ben Sharp has now been demoted down to 4th place, but he finishes another lap and doesn't improve in the end, so that was not an improvement. He stays 4th, just ahead of Dan Blake. Saw someone else moving up, Ben Bateman, I think it was, that moved into 6th place on that previous lap. The Hewitt has gone 6th now as well. In fact, that's already out of date. There is the orange number 17 car. Ben Leach goes through again, and is he going to improve once more here on that pole position time? Yes, he is. 1:36.61, over half a second quicker now than Ian Crosby, and just when it looked as though Ben Leach might be feeling the pressure, he has suddenly found some more speed. Someone who really needs to find some more speed is Chris Knox. He comes out of this final corner now. Chris Knox in 10th position right now. He's got the number 3 car of Craig Jones just in front of him. They cross the start-finish line then. And is it an improvement for Knox? No, it's not. So the man that was second place in the previous race just struggling here in this second qualifying session. This is a really strange night. There's not been much consistency really as to, there is consistency in the fact that Ben Leach has been impossible to beat so far, but beyond that, it looks like it's going to be a very different lineup on the grid for race 2 than we had for the opening race of the night. 10 seconds left on the clock, so anyone that is currently on a lap is entitled to finish it, and Chris Knox therefore has one more chance to try and improve. Runs a bit wide there though. The right-hander. And Leach, would you believe, is going quicker again on this lap. Now David Ward goes quicker as well. He goes into second now. David Ward just pips Ian Crosby to a front row position, and Crosby's next lap is not good enough to improve. So Crosby goes down to 3rd. Ben Sharp has headed for the pit lane from 4th. Gavin Johnson jumps into 8th place, and Ben Bateman goes 6th. That was another late improvement there for Ben Bateman, just 1/100th of a second slower than Dan Blake. But is Ben Leach about to move the goalpost once again, because he's already got nearly half a second on the field? He's going strong on this lap. He comes out of the final corner. His current fastest time is a 1:36.61. The only driver in the 1:36 Does he go quicker? He does, a 1:36.35. He finds another quarter of a second. That is unbelievable pace. And, there's a spin there just behind Dan Blake going out of turn number 4. But, yeah, that is an astonishing pace being set by Ben Leach. And Ben surely ain't going to be beaten now. Dan Blake, I think, is backing out of this lap. He's in 5th position, looks likely to stay there. Yes, he's headed for the pit lane. Ian Crosby is still circulating, but I think he's already seen the checkered flag. We've got Craig Jones improving further back into 17th place. Pretty much everybody else now, I think, has completed the session. Steve Hefford also just came across the line, but stayed in 15th. We're seeing him there in the red, black and yellow Momo car, drifting wide onto the dirt. But Ben Leach, well, what is it going to take to beat Ben tonight? A bit of a miracle, probably, would be the answer. 3/4 of a second quicker, and this is not a long lap, really. 2.24 miles. It's a fairly average length circuit. It's not the most demanding of circuits either. It's not one of those tracks where you would expect the times to be quite well separated. You would probably expect, really, the to be a bit closer than this, but yeah, that's interesting stuff there. Then Ian Crosby comes through and doesn't improve. I think he was one of the last drivers to come to the end of the session. Getting reports that Chris Knox is not particularly happy with a few people getting in his way there whilst they were on slow laps or on out laps, which possibly is part of the story as to why he's down in 11th place. So Chris Knox, not only has he qualified badly, but maybe the red mist starting to defend now as well. I think he's going to be on the move when we go racing, starting from 11th place on the grid. But then let's have a look through the grid then, shall we, for our second race tonight. Round number 6 of the PDC Racing League. We're just waiting for the last couple of drivers to finish the session, which they do now. And we can see it is going to be Ben Leach back on pole position, looking good to do the double here at Laguna Seca. David Ward in 2nd, Ian Crosby 3rd, Ben Sharp in 4th, and Dan Blake on the 3rd row of the grid in 5th. He's got Ben Bateman company on row number 3. Then it's Kyle Power. He'll be a bit disappointed, I think, with a 4th row start alongside Freddie Hewitt. Likewise, Gavin Johnson and Alex Rivette rounding out the top 10. Then on row 6, Chris Knox and Carl Jacquelet. Again, neither of those two particularly happy, I don't think, with how that session panned out, whilst Adam Southgate and Ian Bailey share row 7. So row 8 for Steve Hefford and Michael Seal, row 9, Craig Jones and Pip Hammond, with Ian Court and Charles Kellyman rounding out that top 20. Then it's Roger Morton and Ben Best, Kevin McGlone and Gary Bailey are on the 12th row together, ahead of Doug Hamilton and Ed Cooper. Dale Bennison has Alan Toon alongside him on the 14th row, whilst the top 30 is rounded out by Ben Hansey and Lee Vaughan. Jason Wood and Paul Warren then make up. So the field then about to get going here for the second race of the night, the feature event here from the Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca in the PDC Racing League. Ben Leach and David Ward sharing the front row of the grid. And we're just waiting for the last couple of drivers to spawn back onto the grid. Dan Blake, always one of the latecomers, but I think he likes to make sure that everyone else gets out there as well on time before the race gets started. This one, a 30-minute race. You would expect maybe to be a slightly calmer hill to the start, but that isn't often the case. Let's see then who gets off the line best. Ben Leach on pole, David Ward up alongside him. The lights go out. It's another textbook start from pole for Ben Leach. He will lead the field over the hill. Here comes Ian Crosby up the inside of David Ward for second already. Ward's trying to squeeze into the inside line. You've got to be careful not to bang wheels here. We've got Ben Sharp right behind as well, looking to pick up the pieces if they do. Crosby super late on the brakes into turn number 1, almost goes into the back of the race leader, but Leach will hang on to the advantage. Doug Hamilton is already in the pit lane, so I think there's been some contact on the run into turn number 1. Kevin McGlone has just followed him in there as well. But at the front, it is Leach leading, Crosby up to second, Ward down to third, then it's Ben Sharp fourth, and Kyle Power, look, into the top 5, although he's trying to fend off Dan Blake, has really lost out there. Dan Blake not with a great start. Chris Knox, I said the red mist has descended. He's going around the outside here of Freddie Hewitt and Gavin Johnson as they head down into the left-hander. There's not Gavin Johnson, sorry, it's actually Ben Bateman, the RS Components liveried car. Knox muscling his way through. He's gone past Freddie Hewitt and can't quite get up alongside the 293. Carl Jacquelet is that's forced to answer a vet, actually, pointing him. Well, they go then. Here's a replay of what happened to Pip Hammond on the opening lap. Had some contact there going into turn number 5, unfortunately. So for the second race in a row, Pip Hammond in drama on the opening lap where he's hit the curb and had a spin. So that's unfortunate, especially on lap number 1, because you lose so much time. You lose so many places. And Pip Hammond is right at the back now, 32nd. The last car still running. Ward, look, going through the penultimate corner, so David Ward's going to lose even more positions now. Chris Knox up the inside of Dan Blake. Now, these are the top 2 in the championship. Knox has to try and pounce here, whilst Dan Blake is a bit out of sorts tonight. He's got a run up the inside here going towards turn 1. He's getting the toe from David Ward as well. I don't expect Chris Knox to hang around here. He's going for 7th place up the inside of Blake, and he will make the move stick into the hairpin. He's super late on the brakes as well. Almost hits the back of David Ward. Sees a gap on the inside through the second apex at the Andretti hairpin, but decides not to do that because that would have put him on the outside line for the next right-hander and could have allowed Dan Blake to come back through as well. So Chris Knox settles for just 1 position on that particular occasion, but he's into 7th now, having picked up 4 positions from where he started. Ben Leach then your leader, Crosby 2nd, 3rd Sharp, 4th Kyle Power, and then David Ward rounding out that top 5, side-by-side battling here just behind that group, going into the left-hander, and that's Michael Seal under pressure from Steve Hefford, and Steve Hefford goes up the inside. Kyle Power's been off there, I believe. Kyle Power has gone off the road from inside the top 5 and has fallen right behind all of this group. He's outside of the top 20 now, so we'll need to try and pick up what's gone on with Kyle. Michael Seal runs wide now as well, and this is going to explain to us, is it what happened to Kyle Power into turn 4, coming out of turn 5, actually loses the rear and seemed to do that all on his own. So Power, there he is, he's back on track now. A long way down the order, and it's all kicking off here, coming out of the corkscrew. Freddie Hewitt and Dan Blake is losing more ground. Adam Southgate's gone through, Freddie Hewitt as well. David Ward's been involved. Chris Knox, we believe, has been off the track as well. Just look at that. So contact with David Ward there for Chris Knox, so that won't go down very well. It's delayed order as well, but Knox, as you can see, has quite a lot of damage. He's going to have to head for the pit lane surely, and that will not improve his mood at all and that is huge for the championship because it looked as though Dan Blake was the one that was losing out here. Blake has lost out, actually. He's down to 21st after all of that, so it looks like actually neither of our top two in the championship are going to do particularly well out of this. Here's what happened to Blake. Oh, just ran out wide onto the grass there. He was trying to avoid contact, I think, with Freddie Hewitt on the inside. And off he went, and Dan Blake now, has he sustained damage in that, do we think? He's 19th. I don't think he hit anything too hard, but there he is, just... that's another off he's had now. He's been off again down at the Andretti hairpin. So, come on, Dan, what are you doing? He's down in 18th position now, and outside of the points. How many times this season have we seen Dan put himself in these positions where he's having to fight back from early issues? The very first qualifying session of the year at Okayama, he messed up. He ended up qualifying well down the order, fought his way through, almost won in race 2, and then had that last lap collision with Kyle Power. And again now here at Laguna Seca, it's like he's doing everything he can not to score points, but time and again seems to be able to come back through to score some. Right, let's recap, shall we, what the order is at the front. Ben Leach is 3 seconds up the road. Once again, this is played beautifully into his hands. There's no one that can keep up with him, even when they're not falling over each other. There is Ben going through the final corner, in the lead of the race by over 3 seconds now. In fact, second place is Ben Sharp. You can see him in the background, dicing away with Ian Crosby, who is third. David Ward is in fourth position, and Ben Bateman rounds out the top 5 with Freddie Hewitt, Alex Rivette, Steve Heppard, Carl Jacquelette, and Adam Southgate rounding out the top 10. So it's quite a jumbled order inside that top 10. But as far as the race lead is concerned, that is a handy cushion that Leach has over Ben Sharp in second, and Ian Crosby there in the Specsavers car in third. Who's got a little bit of damage. I was just noticing the right front corner there. That thing just curled up slightly. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think that'll hurt him too much, especially given the fact that Ben Sharp just went off right in front of him. So Ben Sharp will be reeled back in once more by the third place man. Now we're on board with the 6th place driver, Freddie Hewitt, as he tries to challenge Ben for 5th place. Has a look at the inside. Ben leaves the door open invitingly, and Hewitt didn't want to say no to that invitation, and he goes straight up the inside. The next corner is also a left-hander, so he's got the inside once more as they go towards the top of the hill, and they keep on climbing all the way up to the highest point of the track at the corkscrew. It's that roller coaster descent back down to the end of the lap. It looks like he's gone through though. Bateman's trying to fight back here, but the outside line into the corkscrew is not usually a pleasant place to be. And yeah, he settles back underneath the rear wing of Freddie Hewitt, who really has been impressing us all of late in all of the sim racing that he's been doing. In court here, down in 15th place, he is just in front of Dan Blake. He's about 2 seconds in front of Dan Blake, and right on the tail of Carl Jacquelette. So he's in a bit of a year one racing sandwich here. As to get past going out of the corkscrew, you can see Jacquelette's got damage to the rear of the car as well, that rear wing at a funny angle, and you can see the car twitching there through the left-hander as a result of that. Just didn't have the rear stability. That'll be sapping his confidence as well going into the high-speed corners if you don't know what the car's going to do. And in fact, he heads for the pit lane. So Jacquelette wants to get the car fixed, and Dan Blake is in as well. That's interesting. So Dan obviously felt that since he was out of the points anyway, the car must be wounded, and he's decided to come in and try and get some repairs. So this is big news then. Where's Chris Knox gone in all of this? That's the big question. Well, he's not... oh no, he's out. He's retired. So Chris Knox is out of the race. So this is big news then. Who was third in the championship coming into this race? Because that could be the driver that comes out of this one with the biggest haul of points. Well, the third place driver coming into the night of racing was Freddie Hewitt, and Freddie Hewitt is doing rather well right now. We just saw that he'd picked up that 5th place from Ben Bateman. He is starting already to close on David Ward in 4th. So Freddie Hewitt now becoming the man to watch here, I think, as he tries to force his way back into the championship battle. This is the scrap for second. That was the scrap for second anyway between Ben Sharp and Ian Crosby. There's Freddie Hewitt. David Ward is the man that he's chasing. And I think he might have just been off the road there, Ward, because the gap's coming down quite rapidly as they go up the hill towards the corkscrew. So Freddie Hewitt is really on a tear here now. I'm not sure how aware he will be about the issues that Knox and Dan Blake have been having. Power here racing away as well. Car Power is just moving into 12th place at the expense of Charles Kellyman. Kellyman there in the 67 car. Will not really have much of an answer, I don't think, for Car Power. The second place scrap across the line they go. Ben Leach, just to prove the point here that he's the fastest driver here tonight, with another fastest lap, 1:36.62. No wonder he's 5.3 seconds ahead of this group, although there's tyre smoke there telling me that, oh no, there was a spin actually just behind the race leader, and Ben Hansey, we believe that is, that's gone around through the first corner. So, being lapped by Ben Leach at the time. Hopefully there was no contact, that would be awkward, wouldn't it? But Ben is further extending his lead over the rest behind, so I'm pretty sure that he wasn't delayed in that too much. There's that second place scrap, Sharp and Crosby second and third, David Ward 5.2 seconds behind them in fourth, and Freddie Hewitt in that top five within a second now of David, so he's almost there with him. Blake back on track in 19th place, so he's just gone up the inside there of Jason Wood, and he's bringing his teammate Carl Jacquelet with him. These two worked together quite well at Okayama. Jacquelet ended up winning that race after Blake's accident in race 2, but prior to that, he had moved aside to let Dan Blake have a go at Kyle Power for the race lead, and in the end, that was the move that probably won him the race, because it meant that he was far enough behind Dan that he didn't get caught up in their accident. But Jacquelet was quite happy on that occasion to play second fiddle to Dan Blake. He might be regretting that now. Oh, Jason Wood with a big spin. Oh, and he hits the barriers as well. That's a shame. He almost kept it out of the concrete wall, but he does go around, and that might now require a visit to the pit lane to get the car fixed. Then, now, didn't seem to be in the pit lane for that long, did he? So I wonder whether was it repairs or was it a penalty that he was serving. I hadn't heard about a penalty, but it was a fast repair, right? Okay, so yeah, the fast repairs are exactly what they sound like. It is a quick way of getting the car fixed up, but it was very quick because he only lost a couple of positions, which is probably why he decided to do it. To be honest, he probably realised that there was no one that close behind him. He reckoned he could get in and out without losing too much time, but no safety cars in PDC Racing League, so he's not going to be able to catch back up to the leaders, and he's about three quarters of a lap, behind the race leader Ben Leach right now. On board with the third place driver now, Ian Crosby. He continues to try and chase down Ben Sharp, but these two do seem to be running at a very similar pace. On the previous lap, Sharp was fractionally quicker, and that was a personal best lap on the previous occasion for Ben Sharp, 7.15, which was 0.2 quicker than the race leader, but the lead gap still 5.2 seconds as it stands. Climb the hill, get a real good look here at the elevation changes here at Laguna Seca. Downhill into the corkscrew, then the whole world just drops away. It's so easy to lose control of the car there as it goes light over the crest. It's also easy to just drive straight off the track, really, because you can't actually see where you're going. Remember, from this roll bar camera that we're riding on board with Ian Crosby, we are a lot higher up than the driver would sit in the car, and therefore their view is even more limited than what we're seeing here. And now, though, his view very much full of the Ben Sharp car in front. This is a slightly more accurate view, probably, of what Ian can see. We're riding now on the nose cone of Ian Crosby's car. And now you really can get a sense of the speed as well as they go up and over the hill down into the Andretti hairpin. Oh, and a bit of a slide there for Sharp. You see, he runs out wide. But then as long as you hook up that second apex, look at the way that he'll get back away from us again on the exit of the corner. He's definitely lost some time, but as long as you hook up that second apex, you can get back to the power nice and early. Carry the speed towards turn number 3. And Crosby just sitting there, waiting in the wings, hoping that there's a mistake incoming here for the second place driver. Oh, yes, that's so. Crosby does have some damage to the... Oh, yes, he does, doesn't he? He's damaged the wing even more, I think, since we last saw him. So Crosby, we down on front grip and downforce. That will possibly be explaining why he's struggling to stay with Ben Sharp as well. And he's in the dirty air, being generated by the car in front. So it's all really working against Ian Crosby right now, but he's still running a decent speed and personal best laps for all of our top 4 drivers actually on the previous lap, including a new fastest lap of the race for Ben Leach, just because he can, a 1:36.41. Kyle Power, though, is trying his best to get into 11th place now, and that was a nice move up the inside of Ben Best there into the very quick and very narrow left-hander as they climb towards the corkscrew. Back at him, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to. David Ward, meanwhile, has been reeled in now by Freddie Hewitt, so this is significant. Hewitt needs to try and get this 4th place away. It looks as though he's got the speed to do so. He's under no pressure from Alex Ribet behind. He's 3 seconds back, so Hewitt can afford to take his time here. He's not likely to get any further up than fourth because these two are about 7.5 seconds behind the Ben Sharp and Ian Crosby battle. Ball with Hewitt over the hill, looks to the outside into the hairpin because he knows that David Ward is likely to defend the inside, but he doesn't actually. And Freddie Hewitt sees a gap, he rolls off the brakes, gets to the apex first, runs a bit wide though. Ward will try and fight back on the exit of the corner, but that was a nice move that from Freddie Hewitt. I think he was surprised actually at A, how much room David Ward left him, and B, how early on the brakes David was. And so in the end, Freddie was able to get through without too much of a fight. Puts him into fourth position now. As if Dan Blake and Chris Knox don't score points, he will outscore them to the tune of 22 points. This is why that 50-odd point cushion that Dan Blake had coming into the night wasn't really all that comfortable, because you can score 90 points over the course of 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races. A race win is worth 35 points, and of course you've got those 2 opportunities to take the 10 points for pole. So a lot of points on offer. We've still got another 2 nights of racing to go as well at Donington Park and at the Charlotte Roval. So it ain't over yet, and tonight's races are definitely shaking up the championship battle. Gavin Johnson now, who is just in the back end of the top 10. There's Ben Sharp, still in second ahead of Ian Crosby. Dan Blake, by the way, his teammate, is still 19th, 2.5 seconds behind Alan Toon right now, the gentleman. He's how far behind the top 15? Yeah, he's a good 20 seconds or so away from the points, is Dan Blake. Although we are only just into the second half of the race, so he might just be able to scrape a point or two, especially if a couple of others are by the wayside. Is in second position, Ben Sharp. They're 7 seconds behind Ben Leach, who's gone even quicker now. 135.94 is the new fastest Ben Leach. I don't know where he's finding this time. He just gets quicker and quicker and quicker. And all of the time, the tyres are getting more and more worn out. Yes, the fuel load is going down as well, which makes the car a little bit lighter, a little bit quicker. But that's usually balanced out by the tyre wear. One thing that does help them is these cars do not run on slick tyres. You can see that they're running these grooved tyres, and that means that they do last a bit longer. They don't wear out as quickly as a slick racing tyre would do. But yeah, Ben Leach is really pounding around here and using up his tyres and getting good speed out of them, even this late into a race. So yeah, that is very, very impressive stuff from Ben Leach, and I think if he does manage to get the second race victory, then that will be well deserved. Speaking of tyres as well, a shout out to Polysport tonight. They supply motorsport tyres. They're present at most of the 750 Motor Club meetings. A lot of these drivers involved with 750 Motor Club championships, and they're providing tyre support to club racers, Polysport, who are on board for tonight. So we thank them too. Meanwhile, battling is still going on the track here. Ben Bateman scrapping away for a position. Where are they now? Ben Bateman is in 8th place right now, and trying to find a way ahead of Steve Hefford in front of him. And Freddie Hewitt. Oh yeah, Freddie Hewitt. What's going on there then? Is that Hewitt, the orange car of them? Yes, it is. So Freddie Hewitt's been off the road somewhere. Here we go. He was ahead of David Ward. It's the curb through the, just took too much speed, and he's lost it completely, Freddie Hewitt, and he's very lucky that he wasn't collected by David Ward there. He never hit anything solid, and he's only lost 1 position, but all of that hard work he did, 4th place away from David Ward, has all come to nothing now, because he's rejoined some 5.6 seconds behind David, and not that far in front of Alex Rivette, Ben Bateman and Steve Hefford, who are dicing over 6th, 7th and 8th positions respectively. Adam Southgate then just behind them in 9th. Gavin Johnson rounding out that top 10. Freddie Hewitt he will be kicking himself right now, because that was a fairly easy 4th position. He can outscore all of the drivers that he really needed to outscore as far as the championship goes. An awful lot hard for himself after that spin. Very easy to do. We've seen a lot of drivers go off through that sequence of corners, because you're going so steeply downhill, and you've got to try and keep the mid-corner speed up as high as you can. You want to try and get to the throttle early, open out the steering early. If you get too early, then you'll get a wheel on the grass and around you will go. So it was a shame then for Eddie, but he will be on a charge now over the remaining 11 or 12 minutes or so to try and catch David Ward again, but that is not going to be easy, I don't think, because David is still running only about half a second off his personal best pace. And Bateman here, then we're watching, still attacking Steve Hefford. They're right behind Alex Rivette. They sweep through the final corner there. Great camera angle on the apex of the turn. It looks like Gavin Johnson has caught Adam Southgate now as well. Two drivers with Porsche racing experience. They seem to find each other on track quite a lot in this PDC Racing League. The last couple of race meetings, they've been battling together. Steve Hefford with a big late lunge up the inside. I don't even know if he was trying to overtake Alex Rivette there or whether he just missed his braking point, but he snatches the brake and just avoids going into the back of the number 113 car. All the time watching his mirrors because Ben Bateman is there trying to find a way back ahead of him. Yeah, Southgate and Johnson still scrapping over that ninth place as well, just behind. Wide run there for Steve Hefford, and he's taking some interesting lines here, isn't he? And that allows maybe an opportunity for Bateman to go around the outside. That doesn't work. He cuts back to the inside, but again, can't quite get the speed up. And in the background, I've just spotted Kyle Power. Kyle Power is on the fringes of the top 10 now. There he is, look, in the green and red 666 car, right on the tail now. That Southgate-Johnson battle. In fact, he's doing more than following them. He's going up the inside of Gavin Johnson towards the corkscrew. Kyle Power is one of the fastest drivers on the track right now. In fact, apart from the race leader, he is the only driver in the 136s, although Ben Leach, just to prove how good he is, has now done a 1:35.92, so actually he's still going quicker than anybody else by quite some margin. Kyle Power, though, one of the other quickest drivers on the track. He's moved into 10th place now at the expense of Gavin Johnson, has a look immediately to the inside of Adam Southgate, and there are more places that he could gain here because that group of cars fighting for 6th place, only a second up the road. Ben Bateman there running out wide and running on the grass coming out of the final corner, so that's not helped his PDC. The Kyle Power gets 9th place now then. So things going better and better for Kyle. He's 2.3 seconds behind Ben Bateman, at the moment. So Ben Bateman holding on to 8th position despite running wide onto the grass. Charles Kellyman here, look at the damage on the front, rear, side, probably underneath as well of that car, not in the best of shape. He's dicing with the 77 of Ian Court. This is all over 13th place. Craig Jones also tries to join in the action there. The black and green number 3 car, he too has rear wing damage as they head out of that Andretti hairpin again, where we've seen so much action at the 2 races tonight. Kellyman not able to move through, but yeah, this is a nice battle, and wherever you look throughout the field, there is these little pockets of activity, little groups of drivers. One of the great things about the increase in interest in this championship for Season 2, the bigger grids that we're getting, is that you're more likely now as a driver to find yourself racing someone who is of your speed, of your experience, whereas the smaller the grid is, the bigger the spread tends to be of speed and talent between the various drivers. But right now, everyone has someone to race with, apart from Ben Leach, who's now 10.5 seconds clear of these two. But Ian Crosby seems to be thinking a bit more seriously now about getting this 2nd place away from Ben Sharp. He has looked to the outside into the hairpin. Sharp keeps it nice and tight, though, to both the 1st and 2nd apexes. Dips a wheel on the grass. We're inside the final third of the race now, and Ian Crosby may be deciding that now is go time. They're not really in that much danger of being caught by the cars behind. Over that curve there through the 4th turn. Starting now to climb uphill in towards turn number 5. Crosby, where does he make the move? Oh, he's very sideways. Saves it, but that was scary moment for Crosby, and right now his priority is on not crashing rather than overtaking maybe. He's got some work to do to catch back up to Sharp. That's a shame because you sense that he was pushing pretty hard to live with Ben Sharp's pace anyway. Now that little slide that he's just had has cost him over a second. He's 1.4 seconds behind him now, but that was some magnificent car control there. Oh, and he's annoyed with himself, you can tell, because he nearly crashes again through the corkscrew, but that doesn't get him anywhere because he's lost another half a second or so now as a result of that little grassy moment through the corkscrew. Back to Steve Hefford now, who's still dicing with Alex Rivette and Ben Bateman. Adam Southgate's now 0.8 of a second behind them, but Kyle Power has cleared this whole group. So Power is 6th place now, and he's overtaken them all in pretty short order. There is Kyle, one of the few cars with no damage as well by the looks of it. Then it's Rivette, and then side by side was it between Steve Hefford and Ben Bateman just behind him. Hefford just about keeping Bateman at bay. Ooh, Ben has a peek up the inside into the penultimate corner, but yeah, that's not an overtaking chance. The final turn is, though, but I'm not sure he's close enough now. because he took that tighter line into the previous corner. He's very late on the brakes, and Steve Hefford himself nearly runs off the road and catches back up to Alex Rivette, but it was actually it's going to be Southgate that could benefit from all of this, because Ben Bateman slowed himself down coming off the corner. Southgate sees a gap on the inside going down into the hairpin once again. They're starting the 14th lap of the race. Southgate late on the brakes. Nicely done. He's a very good overtaker, is Adam Southgate, and well used to one-make sports car competition, even if single-seaters is something we don't see him doing all that often. But, well, Bateman coming back at him now, reclaims that 9th spot into turn 3. Didn't want to let Southgate get away. With Adam then now as he goes through that right-hander, and that's not going to work well at all. Oh, brilliant car control there from Ben Bateman. He hit that sausage curb on the apex of the corner, got a wheel on the dirt coming out of the turn, and very nearly lost it. But as you do sense that these drivers have had the best out of their tyres now. 3-7 there, staying out of the way as it goes a lap down to this group. That's Lee Vaughan in 25th place. 22 cars still on the lead lap, and his battle is starting now to get pretty intense onto the grass there for the Ben Bateman car on the inside of Steve Hefford. Sideways for Rivette. Hefford goes around the outside line. Rivette can't quite close the door. Hefford is still there. They're wheel to wheel out of the corkscrew down the hill, and Steve Hefford now has to try and go right around the outside. It's very, very hard to do it through there, but he keeps it on the island. That gives him the inside line for the penultimate corner, and Ben Bateman tries to follow him through. Alex Rivette really wanted to close the door, and he does on the exit, but these 5 drivers just won't leave each other alone. Back on the inside for Rivette, he slams his way through. That was brilliant stuff. There was barely room for him, and I think that realistically, Steve Hefford had to give him a bit of leeway there through the middle of the corner to avoid contact, but they're all starting to hold each other up now, so back towards them come Gavin Johnson and Adam Southgate. Gavin Johnson are part of this scrap now too. Back up the inside goes Rivette. He's back ahead of Steve Hefford into 7th place. Johnson's got up the inside of his teammate Ben Bateman as well, though, so Johnson is into 9th spot now, so he's finally back to the position he started in. Rivette and Hefford just not leaving each other any moment to breathe. They are side by side through every corner. One of them will get the place, and then at the very next braking zone, the other one just dives straight back up the inside. They are temporarily single file as they work their way back up the hill again, but these 5 drivers couldn't really be much closer. On board now with Ben Bateman, who will be a bit miffed at the way this has all worked. He's fallen down to 10th spot now. Adam Southgate right on his tail too. There they go. Ian Court has just headed for the pit lane, I can tell you as well, but he was some way outside of the points. Oh, Steve Hefford, big slide, and that loses him momentum. He's getting held up here by Rivette, and here comes Gavin Johnson on the grass. That's a unique attempt to overtake going into the corkscrew, one that definitely caught his attention, I'm sure, as he muscles his way back in line again, make sure that Bateman behind him doesn't come through. The brilliant scrap, and it is for some decent points. 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th place drivers. Dan Blake, by the way, is in the points now as well. He's in 15th and only 2.3 seconds behind Craig Jones, so it looks like Blake might be able to get through to 14th here before the end of the race. That's 4 drivers maybe start falling by the wayside, which there is a possibility of, I think, when you look at the way that this lot are racing each other. Kept it clean so far. Hill again. Johnson didn't get a great exit from the final turn, so that leaves the 2 drivers in front free to battle. And this time Steve Hefford goes to the outside of Alex Rivette into turn number 1. Brave and a difficult move to make though, and can't quite find the grip on the dirty side of the road. Dust and dirt and rubbish that they're dragging onto the track with their constant rally crossing. Not just this group, but the whole field in general. Is that the track is definitely lower on grip now, I think, than it was at the start of the race. Steve Hefford, wherever he wants to go, there is a green, black and purple Yearone Racing TV car right in the way. The Grello car, as I've been diddly up to refer to it as. But it's defending well, is the, whatever colour it is, Yearone Racing car of Alex Rivette. Steve Hefford again to go to the outside. This is brave stuff. He's going to be on the grass. Of course he is. There was never going to be any room through there, but they're still wheel to wheel. And now Gavin Johnson's getting a nice double slipstream with his green wheels on his RS Component sponsored car into the corkscrew. These two have driven side by side for basically the last 3 laps or so. Rarely a corner goes by where they're single file. And Hefford goes through, and Johnson, Rivette into the side of Johnson. That was unfortunate. Gavin Johnson was to stick his nose in where he was not wanted, and Rivette was more preoccupied, I think, with getting the right line through the corner to attack Steve Hefford, but he maybe didn't realise Gavin Johnson was there. Here's the replay on board with Johnson. Well, there was nothing he could do to avoid the contact, but equally, I'm fairly sure that Rivette didn't know that he was there because they were that engrossed in their own battle, Rivette and Hefford. So Steve Hefford, now hang on, yeah, Steve Hefford's been off because Hefford's down to 12th. What's happened to Steve that we're about to see here? Drops down into the final corner, Rivette behind him. Ooh, contact on the way in, around he goes! Oh no, well this is why I said that this was going to end in tears. And Gavin Johnson's the only one that gets through without contact. Brilliant avoiding stuff there for Johnson, but unfortunately, Alex Rivette not making friends. That's 2 bits of contact he was involved in the space of 3 corners. Here's another view of it. In on Hefford, he's later on the brakes, doesn't even attempt to go to the inside though, just sort of runs into the back of him, then he runs into him as he spins, gets collected by Southgate and Bateman, and Gavin Johnson says, thank you very much, I'll just drive straight up the inside of all of you. Into 8th place, Steve Hefford has headed for the pit lane. Ben Leach goes on to the final lap of the race, and he'll be wondering what on earth all the drama's about, because he has hardly had to defend this position in either of the 2 races so far tonight. Rare thing to see one driver win both races in a PDC Racing League night. It's only happened once before, but Ben Leach is going to do exactly that here at Laguna Seca. Already the winningest driver of all time in the PDC Racing League. This will be his 6th PDC race victory, and it will be his 3rd of the season, which means that he will now have more race wins this season than anybody else, and more race wins across the entire history of the season and a half's worth of history of PDC Racing League action. Plenty of action there's been behind him, but Ben Leach probably thinks that he's had quite a boring night, but a racing driver, these are the kind of races that you live for, really, because it's just been a nice, serene Friday evening drive around one of the most famous racetracks in the world, and Ben Leach has been enjoying every single second of it. He comes down through the corkscrew. Dan Blake update, by the way, he's 12th and about to overtake Craig Jones for 11th, so he gained out of all of that with Hefford pulling into the pits to retire. Southgate's gone a lap down as well after a pit lane visit, so Blake gained a few places there, and he's just overtaken Craig Jones. Dan Blake, despite the fact that he's really made life hard for himself tonight, is going to get an 11th place finish, but he's going to lose quite a lot of points to this man, Ben Leach, who is very much putting himself into the championship conversation. He comes across the start-finish line, doubles up here at Laguna Seca. It's 2 wins from 2, and that is pretty much as close to perfection as you will get. An awful lot of points scored tonight by Ben Leach. Race by about 15 seconds in the end over Ben Sharp in second. Ian Crosby never could catch back up to him after he had that big moment inside the final 10 minutes. There goes Crosby across the line in 3rd. David Ward should come home in 4th. Freddie Hewitt again never caught him up again after his spin that he had just after he'd overtaken David a few minutes ago. So Ward comes home in 4th. Freddie Hewitt comes across the line there in 5th. And Kyle Power, another few laps, might have caught him actually. He was quicker than Freddie Hewitt by about a second or so at least per lap over the last few laps of the race, but Power ends up in 6th. Ben Bateman will come home 7th, the highest surviving driver in all of that. In fact, Gavin Johnson lost some more ground at the end there because he was in 8th, but it's actually Alex Rivette you can see that's in 8th position now, and Ben Best in 9th. Gavin Johnson will get 10th. He's 5.3 seconds ahead of Dan Blake, so I don't think Blake's going to catch him on this final lap. You see the walking wounded here, all of these drivers involved in some skirmishes along the way. Blake in 11th, there he goes, crosses the start-finish line, and then it's Roger Morton, 12th, so Craig Jones must have been off on the final lap as well, because I made the point that half a lap ago it was Craig that Dan was scrapping with for 11th place, but Roger Morton ends up finishing between them. And Craig Jones 13th, Carl Jacquelet 14th. Craig Jones sums up how he feels about that by crashing into wall as soon as he finishes the race. Jacquelet comes through, and I think he's the last of the drivers to see the checkered flag, or in fact Ed Cooper was right behind him. So we had 15 drivers on the lead lap. Quite a lot of retirement in race number 2, but it was a dominant victory for Ben Leach. Absolutely perfect performance for him, and he is your double race winner here at Laguna Seca. He may have come into the night some way back in the points, but I don't think he'll be that far back now after his night of very successful racing here at Laguna Seca. Leach then with the win, Ben Sharp second, Ian Crosby 3rd, David Ward 4th, and Freddie Hewitt rounds out the top 5. Then it's Kyle Power, Ben Bateman, Alex Rivette, Ben Best, Pike 11th, despite his early dramas. We've said that a few times this season. And Roger Morton ends up 12th. Craig Jones 13th. Carl Jacqueline 14th. And Cooper rounds out 15th place. One lap down were Michael Seal, Charles Kellyman, Alan Toon, and Jason Wood. So the gentleman, Alan Toon, who was our spotlight driver for the night, gets himself a top 20 result at the end of race number 2. And Steve Hefford is classified in 20th, despite being in the pit lane at the end. So we'll have to see how that all works out. There were lots of drivers that weren't running at the end, in fairness. Hefford, Hammond, Adam Southgate, Ian Court, Doug Hamilton. Lee Vaughan got back out there, though, so he's classified 25th. And Gary Bailey, Ben Hansey, Ian Bailey, Dale Bennison, Chris Knox, Kevin McGlone, and Paul Warren are all non-finishers. So a bruising second race of the night here at Laguna Seca for the PDC Racing League, one that definitely has some championship implications, but a race that ultimately was always going to go the way, I think, of Ben Leach, who has been impossible to beat tonight, and he is waiting outside our comms box to have a chat with us. So Graham Sessford, our producer, will drag him in. Ben, we're making a habit of this now. You have been completely unstoppable in tonight's race. Really as close to a perfect night of racing, I suppose, as you could ever have. Ben, not be able to hear me. We'll try that again. Ben, can you hear us? No. So what we'll do, we'll come back to Ben Leach. We'll go from one Ben to another Ben, because our second place finisher, Ben Sharp, is here. And back on the podium again, solid result for you there. It was really all about keeping that man Ian Crosby behind you until he made his mistake about 2/3 of the way through the race. He was giving you some pressure, wasn't he?
Yeah, I don't know what it is with these cars. I just can't seem to break away from people when they're behind me. So I end up having a quite old ding-dong with Ian, and yeah, it was good fun. And then I saw him make the mistake and knew that was my time to try and get away, because I was starting to struggle a little bit.
Was it the fact that you were watching in your mirrors and sort of having to defend occasionally that allowed Ben Leach to get away, or is he just doing something that no one else can do? Because he was banging in those fastest laps right down to the end of the race. It's not like you to be 15 seconds off the lead. So I think that means that Ben's doing something really special, isn't he?
Yes, he is. There's something I can't find that he's doing. Like, well, yeah, he's done a 35.9 in that race. God knows how. Like, I've done a 36.6. I could have done a 36.4 if it was a perfect lap. So yeah, he's found a trick, but he owns his own simulator company, so I'm gonna blame that as an excuse.
An unfair advantage.
He's just better. Nothing more than that at the minute. It's a hard car to drive.
It is, but you've been getting better with it of late, haven't you? You've actually had quite a consistent last couple of rounds. It would be nice, though, wouldn't it, to get onto that top step of the podium? What's it going to take at Donington Park next week to start winning some races?
A bit of luck, I think. I think I need Ben to have a bad qualifying, really. He's just found something at the minute, and I don't know. I'll try and do a few more laps practice this week on the Donington and see if I can find something. I was quite quick when we went there last season. I've done the 2
exactly,
races.
and it's a track you know as well, I suppose, and a track that you've had success on in the real world too. I mean, does that help when it comes to sim racing? The fact that you've raced at Donington in the real world, or is it so different from the real thing that it really makes very little difference which track you're at?
It helps and it doesn't at the same time, because you start noticing like the bits of the circuit that the game hasn't got quite right and stuff. So for like Donington, like the chicanes change now, where you can run all the green, where on the game the simulator is got massive curbs where you can't cut like you would in real life. So it does it's good, but at the same time there's bits that are different that make it not really that relevant.
It's a track that produces good racing, though. It tends to produce quite frantic racing, so survival will be key more than anything else, won't there? Particularly in the early laps of next week's races. It's not uncommon at Donington for there to be some contact in the early stages, and if you put yourself in the right position, you could benefit from that.
Yes, exactly. I think I had a second and a third when we raced there last time. I had a brilliant race with, I think, Abby and David Ward. So hopefully have some more races like that, and hopefully we can find something to catch up Mr. Leach.
Well, I'm sure he'll be hoping you don't, but we all hope you do, because we want to see some more close racing at the front of the field. Well done, though. It's been a successful night. A couple of podiums for you at Laguna Seca, and we'll see you again next week.
Yep. See you later, mate. Take it easy.
Too. So Ben Sharp then back on the podium again in race number 2 here at Laguna Seca with a second finish, and Ben Leach with the win. No sign of Ian Crosby. Should we try and make contact with Ben Leach? Maybe Ben, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you.
I hope that's all right. I thought you might have had to go and stand outside or something, cool down, because you were pushing very hard in that race, probably harder than you had to, honestly. But how on earth were you putting those lap times in that deep into a race? They just kept on coming. You were getting quicker and quicker and quicker. It was astonishing.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it helps to keep the focus if you're pushing on. If you start to back off, then it's very easy to make a small mistake and or get a cut track or something like that. So yeah, I was pushing and I was trying to see how fast I could go, really.
And the answer was pretty blooming fast. I mean, you were at times a second or so quicker than anybody else. Is that a circuit specific thing? Is this just a track that suits you, or is this something you think you can carry on at Donington next week?
I don't know, obviously, but I did like the circuit and it seemed to suit the car. And in that second race, the cooler track conditions really suited me. The car was way more planted, and so I really had the confidence to extract the pace out of it. So yeah, it was great. It was a great win. It was a bit boring, to be fair, but nice to be dominant and make up for race 2 last week.
I was going to say, it might have been a bit uneventful for you, but you weren't about backing off and making it more entertaining. You wanted the win and you wanted to prove a point, and I think you did. We just spoke to Ben Sharp then, and he had no idea how you were setting those lap times either. So you've got everyone guessing, which is a nice position to be in.
Thank you. Yeah, I did want to make a statement after what happened last week. I had a lot of pace last week, but unable to use it in race 2. And yeah, I wanted to, do well this week. Let's put it like that.
Dan Blake in 11th in that one, and Chris Knox not finishing at all. Is it too late to start thinking about the championship? If you keep these race wins coming in, it might not be.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the standings. I did think I was pretty much out of it, and that I would have to take both wins to sort of be in contention. So yeah, if I have a good run next weekend and it goes well, fingers crossed we can stay in the fight.
Stuff. Well, congratulations. An utterly dominant performance tonight at Laguna Seca, and we'll see how you get on again. Same time next week at Donington Park.
Thank you very much.
Ben Leach, then, the man to beat here at Laguna Seca. It's a double race victory. Now, one other person I think we probably ought to talk to, championship leader, Dan Blake, who I think is probably still leading the championship, but by a reduced margin. Dan, would you like to explain yourself? What was going on tonight?
Just getting caught up in a few nitty-gritty little incidents, really, but as soon as I sort of, in the second race, I had a little spin. David Ward slowed down coming out of he had a slowdown going into the corkscrew, and then he swerved it right in front of me, which put me on the outside line, and just had a moment. And the corkscrews, all 3 incidents I've had to that have been in the corkscrew. The first race, it was the Freddie Hewitt. And then there was another incident as well, where after I'd had the initial one in the second race, where I was going to overtake Ben Hansey around the inside, and he lost control as well, and I had severe damage to my car. And I thought, as it was still sort of 5-6 minutes in, it was worth coming in to take the fast repair, because I think I would have gained some of the time back. And from there, it's just sort of about, I know that the key to a successful championship is just trying to get those points no matter what, because I saw that Chris Knox had gone out the race, and even if I only gained a handful of points, sort of every point matters at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, you came into the night over 50 points clear, which is unheard of in the PDC Racing League. That's by far the biggest championship margin that anyone's had in the season and a half or so that we've been doing this. I've spoken to drivers over the years who have been in your position, and there's always 2 mindsets. They always have one of either mindset. There are those that enjoy having that big cushion because they say, I can afford a bad weekend. I can afford to have a couple of non-finishes. I know I've got those points in the bag. But then there's also drivers that say sometimes, well, actually, when I get that far in front, there's a target on my back now. Everyone wants to beat me, and it's mine to lose. And it sort of makes them a bit more apprehensive about it all. Which of those categories do you fit in? Were you happy to have that cushion, or were you feeling the pressure a bit?
Yeah, I'm happy to have the lead, because obviously in the PDC Racing League, you get your 2 worst scores dropped anyway. So there's always that to play in as well. And in some ways, I know this probably sounds a bit weird, but having a night like tonight potentially couldn't be, in the end of the season, could be the best thing, because it means I drop sort of as less points in the way as well. So it could go one of 2 ways. Just need to get my head down for the last 2 weeks. But as long as we don't have the same problems we had tonight, in the future rounds, having these 2 bad races as my drop scores and still having points may not actually be a bad thing. Because there's some drivers who are sort of getting non-scores and that as well. So even if I'm only getting, as I say, the odd 4 or 5 points finishing where I did, then it's still 4 or 5 more points than potentially my rivals could. And with how close it is, those 4 or 5 points will be crucial by the end of the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those drop scores always do mix things up, and we'll really start the calculators out to work that out, I think, as of next week, because there are only 4 races to go. And Dan, maybe in a couple of weeks, you will be crowned the double champion of the PDC Racing League. But we'll see you again next week, and best of luck for Donington.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy. Thanks, guys.
Blake there then, who is still the points leader, but he's made life difficult for himself tonight. He'll be definitely hoping a cleaner night of racing next time out. Well, that is almost all we've got time for then here from the PDC Racing League. Before we go anywhere though, let me remind you of some of the racing action coming your way very shortly on Year One Racing TV. It's a pretty packed schedule for the Year One Racing TV guys at the moment, with racing on almost every night of the week. So tomorrow there is cricket, virtual cricket, the Silverstone CC versus Byfield CC at 1 o'clock UK time tomorrow afternoon. Monday nights are Formula 4 nights. The British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy kicks off at 7:30. Tuesday, the BSR MX5 2020 Pro Series at 8 o'clock. And we will, of course, be back next Friday with the PDC Racing League, the penultimate rounds of the championship from the Donington Park National Circuit. Always a great track, one of my favourites. It really does do some properly good racing, especially with these Skip Barber cars that we use for PDC Racing League. That then, I think, is pretty much all that we have time for. We want to thank you all for coming along and enjoying the racing. I hope you have been enjoying this PDC Racing League. Season 2 has continued to grow based upon what we saw from Season 1. Racing gets better and better. The championship twisting and turning now as we get into the second half of the season. I'm sure plenty more surprises around the corner. Thanks to everyone at PDC then, all of our sponsors, RS Components, Bottomley Distillers, SR Electrical Wholesalers as well. Thanks to Pip and Gavin and everyone else for putting the championship together, and Graham Sessford and everyone else at Year One Racing TV for their hard work to bring you this top-level broadcast. Apologies for some of the technical issues I was encountering earlier on in the night, but yeah, it has been another really enjoyable night of racing here at Laguna Seca. We'll be back again, same time, same place next week, penultimate night of racing in Season 2 of the PDC Racing League.